Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very happy to welcome Nathaniel Turner here, who is the humanitarian propulsion engineer, an author, and so many more things. We're going to have a great conversation and get to know him. Nate, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. I mean, I guess the more important things are I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son. There are probably some other descriptions people will use for me, but I will stick with those things.
You're an author, so tell us about your books.
Yeah, I've written now, I believe, 6 books and published an additional 2. So I think we've done 8 or 9 books. I started writing letters to my son as a 2-year-old, and those letters that I wrote him from 2 to 16 became the very first book that I ever published. That was Raising Superman. And since then, I've published, I think I've seen written and published, I've published 4 or 5 other books myself, and he's published 2 or 3 books himself.
Oh, wow. So what is your ultimate goal?
To have complete total world domination. And if your viewers can't see it, I'm holding my fingers like Pinky and the Brain. No, man, honestly, my purpose is to leave the planet better than it was when I arrived. I mean, that's about as simple as I can put it. I hope that each day I wake up and have an opportunity to do something where I help serve and make sure someone else knows their life matter. And by help, I don't mean help myself. And by serve, I don't mean serve only those who I have a relationship with that I love, and to make those know that they matter, not just the people who quote unquote fall into my tribe, but to be a person who lives his life in service for the greater good for humanity.
What makes you want to do that? I mean, a lot of people are out for themselves. What makes you want to do this?
I think it may sound hokey, but I think a part of it is the name that I have and the way that my parents intentionally named me. My mother, so my name is Nathaniel. My middle initial is, I'm gonna tell you, don't tell anybody, it's Arnold, which I hate because it reminds me of the pig from Green Acres.
Hey, that was my dad's name.
But
So
okay, all right. Well, then your dad and I suffered. We suffered together. My last name is Turner. So my mom, being a woman of faith, wanted to name me a name that represented the faith that she had, and so Nathaniel in Hebrew means gift of God. My father was a guy who was believed in the revolutionary spirit and believed and loved a person by the name of Nat Turner. So he wanted me to be a revolutionary, and my mother wanted me to be a gift of God. And so I suppose that my objective now is to be a revolutionary that does things that are for the good of humanity.
So you get your faith from your mama?
I would say I get my faith from my mom, but I would also say maybe I don't wear faith like some people do in terms of being religious. I think of faith in terms of the impact that you have with your fellow human being. And so I do believe that that the people will only know that I love me by the way I extend my love to other people, especially those whom I don't know, and especially those who are, well, who I consider the least of us.
Wow. So what has been the greatest hurdle in your life?
To believe that what I want to accomplish is possible. I think that's the biggest hurdle, to just have an internal belief and a willingness to get up every day. And I call it being a farmer too. And while I've never been on a farm, I've been in an urban garden, but I believe it's right. It's this ability to do the same things repetitively without any indication that you're going to have a harvest. And to me, that's the greatest challenge. That if you want to do something impactful in life, then you have to be willing to get up over and over and over. As you know, doing your show, you've done hundreds of episodes, and I'm sure where you started and where you are now are vastly different. But if all you were doing in the beginning were thinking about where you might be today, you might not have continued. But when you do what you do every day, like that song is, to put one foot in front of the other, and soon enough you'll be walking across the floor. That's the way I approach life.
Do you work with people one-on-one?
I do. Mostly, so in my primary life, I work as a financial advisor. I've done that for about 30 years. And so I've always worked with individuals in that regard. Over the last 12 years, 10 to 12 years, I've been working with families to try to show them how to do what we were able to do for our son, which was backward design his life before he was born.
Did you have a vetting process that you go through when you work with someone, or do you just go for it?
So when I first got in financial services, I just wanted to help improve anyone's life by using the things you could learn from economic principles, financial principles, and other. I do find that it's an industry that really doesn't care about people, regardless of what somebody think about one's skin color or religion or gender, that this industry cares about whether or not you have wealth and privilege. And the more wealth and privilege you have, the more insight you get, the better you can earn, the more the vehicles are set up for you to win. And so it's become increasingly more difficult to help everybody, to really help them. Like, we can talk about financial literacy, but I always say, what does it mean to be literate if you don't have any resources? Like, what is the point of learning how to read if you don't have any books? It really doesn't mean a whole lot. So, but in terms of helping families backward design a child's life, I can do that for anyone. And your wealth, your privilege, your fame, or your fortune don't mean anything. In fact, I frankly enjoy it more having an opportunity to work with folks who don't have any of those things, because then we get to prove to people that just because you have wealth and privilege doesn't mean you're going to beat a child or family who has a plan on how to be successful.
Very, very true. Well, this is going to be really quick, but can you kind of take me through what you do when you work with someone?
Sure. So if it was you, as an example, if you have children, the very first thing I'd ask you, I'd say, what are your hopes and dreams for your children? And then I would just be quiet, because nothing that I can't do anything without knowing what it is, where you want to go. It's like you and I taking a journey together. I could have a GPS and I could have the fastest car or jet that we ever need to get us there. But if you can't tell me where we want to go, then we're going to just end up sitting where we are. So my objective is to ask people, first and foremost, what is it that you want for your child's life? Like, if the world, and I always sometimes ask people, if the world were perfect, then what? And I just sit quietly. Because what I find is most people have already decided that there are obstacles before they think about what's possible. And so I'm like, hey, let's just assume that there are no obstacles. Then what? What do you want for yourself, and what do you want for your child? And then we go from there.
What do you think the biggest obstacle people have?
Well, social scientists say that we are born with two fears, and I believe that those two fears certainly are prevalent in all of us. And that's the fear of falling, and then there's the fear of loud sounds, or the fear, I would say, the fear of not being heard. And I think those are the two biggest fears. People fear falling, and so if you fear falling, then you do everything you can not to fall. But the lessons, right? The best lessons are often learned in the fall and learning to get up. And if without getting up, if all you do is stand, you never know what it was to fall. And so you have to fall in order to get up and to move forward. So I do think people fear failure. And that's the probably the biggest thing.
I agree. They want a safety net, or they can't move forward.
Yeah,
It's a shame.
yeah. I always tell my son that life is a journey, and it's a journey with nothing but peaks and valleys. And if you simply think you're always going to be on the peak, what you have really failed to understand is that you're just walking on flat land. And if you think that life is only valleys, what you fail to understand that your life is just flat, because you can't have a peak without a valley. There's no such thing. And you can't get to a peak and stay at a peak. You have to look into the horizon and see, oh, there's another peak. I got to come down. You have to come down. Means you got to have some trials and tribulations again, and then you got to make the climb once again.
And you've done some TED Talks?
I've done a TED Talk, yes, or TEDx talk, but yes, curated by TED.
Oh man, you gotta take me through that. I've often wondered what that'd be like.
Well, you should do one. I advocate that everyone does one. It's pretty simple. I know some people make it out to be more challenging than it is. TED has a website, or TEDx has a website. I'd be happy to find it and share with you. But where you can go and look at where the current needs are for TED speakers anywhere around the world. You can find out what subject matters that they're interested in having someone speak on, and then you simply just complete an online application. In order to prepare for a TED Talk, I would encourage doing something different than I did, which is to make sure you read the book. There's a particular book on how to give a TED Talk, and then there are a series of speeches that are considered the top TED speeches of all time. I would watch those and see what people do, and just realize that what you really want to do is tell stories more than you do want to give people facts and figures.
Well, this couldn't have been your dream from childhood. What did you want to do?
When I was a kid, so I grew up I'm from Gary, Indiana. I don't know if you're familiar with Gary, Indiana. It's a city. We're about 30 miles southwest of Chicago. So an urban city, today a very economically depressed city, part of the Rust Belt. Steel mills were prevalent in Gary through the 70s, and then things went sideways. The population reduced by half. Any and all social strife you could imagine exists in Gary today. So that's where I'm from. When I was growing up, what I wanted to be, I thought I wanted to be like many of my peers. Thought I could be a basketball player. I'm 5'10.5", and I wanted to be the next Dr. J. But somewhere along the line, after my freshman year of high school, I realized that probably wasn't the best route for me to take. My father encouraged me strongly into my sophomore year in high school that I had 3 choices to make in 2 years. And I said, what are those? He says, you have to get out of my house, which meaning you have to, that's really one choice. And those your options are to join the military, which I forbid you to do, to go to college, or get a job. And I'm like, well, the only of those options that seem the slight bit of a good ideal is going to college. So this C student had to figure out how to get his act together to find some schools that would admit me.
Did you have some sort of aha moment when you decided to do this?
Yeah, so I call them people today my starting 5. I met 5 people who, for no reason that I can make up, decided to love me and care for me in ways that like they care for their own child. And they affirmed for me that I was somebody and I could be someone. And in particular, I met a gentleman, his name, he's gone now. So all but one of the people are deceased. But his name was Judge James Kimbrough. And Judge Kimbrough is a small, short man, probably 5'5" or so. But he was perhaps the most respected person that I'd ever known in our community. And so I had a chance to interact with him on many occasions. And one time in particular, ask him how he became a judge. And he told me in his matter-of-fact way, he said, I attended Fisk University and I attended John Marshall Law School. And I'm like, okay. And so, as I think about it now, what he actually told me was how to backward design my life. He said, Nate, you just got to get admitted to one school. So find out what the profile is of an applicant so you can qualify. And then once you do that, I bust your butt while you're in undergrad so that you can be prepared to then find a law school that accepts you. And John Marshall, as an example, was a school he went to.
I meet a lot of folks that are like you, but I have to say you are pretty unique. But what would you say sets you apart from other people that do what you do?
I think so. I don't see myself as unique. I see myself. I mean, I guess I see myself as unique as I see you, right? That we're all humans, and I can't forget who says it, but we're spirits having a human experience. So I think that you and I are identical in that we're flesh, blood, whatever the hue of our skin is. To me, those things are all meaningless. You and I are the same. What makes us unique is that we all get to come here and do something unique with the time that we're here. And I believe that Socrates said that an unexamined life is a life not worth living. And so I believe every day I should be doing something to examine my life, examine the meaning of life, examine the purpose of life, examine who I am in the lives of others. So maybe that's unique about me. Because I think about that and have that at the forefront of my mind every day. In fact, each morning I wake and I write my life the way I'd like it to be, not as it is. So I do that in the first 20 minutes of each morning, and then I record it, and it appears on this thing we call the Journal for It audiocast.
Well, to me, you have a way of using humor to get to people. Is that how you do things when you work with folks?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I wanted to be a comedian, Kyle. So I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit school as an undergrad. So I got to college, and I wasn't doing well. Of course, I could mention I came from a very poor economic situation, and our school system did not prepare me in the way that I need to be prepared. And I won't blame the school, because a lot of that's on me, and my parents weren't. And that's what I do today. So it's unfair to say the school. My parents didn't know how to necessarily help me to be prepared. And so I went to school and I was unprepared, and I wanted to quit. And I had the chance to see Eddie Murphy perform. And I want to say it's either Raw or Delirious. And I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be a comedian. So I called my mom. I said, hello, I'm ready to do something else in my life. And she says, like, what? And I said, I think I'm gonna quit school and become a comedian. She said, Nate, you can be a clown, but you can you cannot be a comedian. So 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 yes, Kyle, I'm humorous, perhaps a clown, according to my mother, is a more apt description.
Do you do this by Zoom? Do you do this in person, or both?
Both. I've had an opportunity to go various places and speak. So sometimes I'm speaking to large audiences about backward design. There's times that I work with families and we do it over Zoom. There's times I do stuff with people that's in person. But whatever is I guess the most effective or most I don't know, the way that that accommodates what people need most is usually the way we proceed.
Do you want to do this on a larger scale?
Absolutely. Speaking of TED, I wrote TED some years ago and applied for the TED Global Conference. And I want to say I got down to, I think, the final round, because they select people who then, I believe, go to Canada to speak at the larger TED. But I would like to be able to be a voice to talk about things that maybe the rest of the planet is not talking about, because we're so busy talking about things that divide us. I'd like to find a way to talk to us about how we survive on this big thing we call planet Earth without destroying it and destroying ourselves.
Amen to that. Do you have a website?
I do. So it's Nathaniel A. Turner, just like my full name, with the A for Arnold as well, and nathanielaturner.com.
Where can people get your books other than the website?
Any place where the gentleman told me to say not long ago, anywhere good or fine books are sold, because he said, hey, if they don't carry your books, they're not a fine bookstore. So anywhere good or fine books are sold.
And that necessary evil, what is your social media?
Sure. Wow. So I think I am on Instagram as Nate A. Turner. I think I'm on Twitter as Nate A. Turner. You can find me on Facebook as Nathaniel A. Turner, JD, MALS. I have a YouTube page that's I think it's Nathaniel A. Turner. I think that's correct. But yeah, I'm not really great at social media. I've got to do better, but I think those are places you can find. And I think I have a LinkedIn page as well.
I'm right there with you, man. What I'll do is I'll put all the links in the description just to make it easier for folks to find you. Before we end this, is there anything else that you would like to share with everyone that that's some kind of message for folks?
Sure. I would say if I could ask people to remember one word, and that word is who. And I think who is the most important word in our human language. And I mentioned it earlier, the question of who is to ask yourself each day, who did you help? Who did you serve? Who knew their life mattered because of you? And then ask yourself that when your time is over, who will people say you were? Who will you appear as in your obituary? Who will people say you were when they speak your eulogy? And who will you be when your tombstone or your last words and testaments are written?
Well, I say this quite often, but I want to say I truly, truly mean it. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
I mean, I appreciate you having me. I really do. Thanks very much. And I wish you blessings with your show.
Thank you. And you're always welcome back, man. Especially you get another book out there. Let me know.
Will do. Hey, send me your a physical address, and then I'll mail you copies of our books.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yep,
And
no problem.
also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. please hit that subscribe button. And from our regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network